services per week that includes an after-school program. In closing, staff recommends approval of a loan commitment in the amount of $2,465,000 of affordable housing funds for the new construction of Beach Hill Apartments, and staff is available to answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. Questions from Commissioner? I see your mic lit up, Commissioner Nelson. All right, perfect, no problem. Seeing that there are no questions from Commissioners, Madam Clerk, I didn't see it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner Ross.
All right. So, as far as the hours for community service for the residents tutoring program, how does that number arrive as far as 10 versus 15 versus 20?
So we have our multifamily lending policies that we use when we're determining a number for the properties that are applying for our funding. And for this project, they are on the lower end of the threshold with the number of units for the property. And that's how we determine how many hours are set aside for resident services.
Okay. So if they're going to take the 10 hours for the tutoring and mentoring, so it would be 2 hours after school each day?
Yes.
Okay. And it's targeted for the youth. What about any other services for the parents?
There are other services that will be provided through the resident services that we can get more
during those same
the after school hours and
during that same time they'll have those hours too for parents and for kids.
Well, it's not necessarily always at the same time. What the resident service provider does work to see kind of what works for the community in terms of timing, and then they'll set the times based on that. The after school hours, obviously, as Whitney said, but for like the engagement with adults, because there are one-bedroom apartments, so there might be people there who don't have children, so their time could be different.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
No public comments.
All right, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution SHRC 2023-16, Commissioner?
First. Second.
All right, motion moved by Commissioner Ross, a second by Commissioner Ramos. If there are no objections, we will adopt the motion to adopt the resolution. And hearing that there are no objections, the motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, can you please read title for agenda item number 7?
Item 7, Affordable Housing Plan Workshop.
Thank you, and I believe there is a presentation from staff.
There is. Thank you, Christine Reichert, the Director of Development Finance here at SHRA. So I think you have a PowerPoint. Bringing that up. I don't want to be. Actually, I'm sorry, I should look for this. I don't see the clicker. Should I just tell you guys when I wanted to move?
No, it should be up there, under your papers.
It's under my papers. It is. Okay. Over the past several years, the City and County of Sacramento have made significant investments to increase the availability of shelter services and permanent supportive housing for those experiencing homelessness. According to the 2022 point-in-time homeless count, there were over 9,000 unhoused individuals in the County of Sacramento. Okay, now let's see if I can do this. This. Can I just tell you, to move it? Next slide, please. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. I know she'll catch up with us. So, get to the second slide in a second. But it is in the desire to improve coordination, the city and county entered into a 5-year partnership agreement to coordinate homeless-related services and activities. And key provisions of the agreement included defining roles and responsibilities, guaranteeing the provisions of the Emergency Shelter and Enforcement Act, committing to the Local Homeless Action Plan, or LHAP, and then reporting to the city and county on a regular basis. In addition to the partnership agreement, it required the city and county to work together to aggressively meet the permanent supportive housing needs as approved and to create an affordable housing plan. The Affordable Housing Plan follows strategies outlined in the LHAP, there we are, thank you, to increase permanent supportive housing opportunities. SHRA is taking the lead on preparing the plan and is engaged with services and environmental service associates to assist. Next slide, please. The Affordable Housing Plan focuses specifically on permanent housing production and rehousing strategies to be carried out by the city, county, SHRA, and Sacramento Steps Forward. Staff from those organizations have been meeting for several months on the plan, and this commission meeting is part of a series of outreach activities we are conducting to ask others to provide input. Earlier this month, we met with several stakeholders and presented the same PowerPoint. Those organizations included the Sacramento Housing Alliance, Sacramento ACT, Sacramento Regional Coalition to End Homelessness, the City of Sacramento Housing Policy Working Group, and the Continuum of Care Board. And this Friday, we'll be meeting with a group consisting of persons with lived experience. Staff hopes to release the draft housing plan after workshops are held at the City Council and Board of Supervisors next month. But at this point, we are still gathering information. You did receive a letter from the Sacramento ACT asking for items to be included in the plan, and that information included strategies, goals, objectives, analysis of costs and funding sources, timelines, recommendation, and all of those things will be included in the plan when it's released. This PowerPoint should not be considered the draft plan. It's just used to highlight some of the suggestions we have received to date, and we're still soliciting ideas. Next slide, please. So this slide demonstrates current activities supporting production of permanent supportive housing, and actions underway include the city and county both have state pro-housing designations. They're eliminating zoning barriers, reducing fees for affordable housing developments, and SHRA prioritizing funding and housing choice vouchers for homeless permanent supportive housing developments. Next slide. And a few of the potential new strategies that have been brought to our attention to increase permanent supportive housing production include prioritizing permanent supportive housing projects when new funding sources come to the city, county, or SHRA, exploring local ballot and bond initiatives, as well as state legislation and federal funding to create new funding sources, and utilizing publicly owned land for permanent supportive housing whenever possible. Next slide, please. Current activities that support production of rehousing, which includes housing assistance such as help with landlord engagement, housing placement, and case management. Those actions that already exist include currently serving over 6,100 families annually, and there's a variety of organizations and services that provide that. And also the county has a landlord engagement and assistance or LEAP program that they're undertaking. Next slide. So potential new strategies to increase rehousing activities include continuing the LEAP program, connecting rehousing providers with a coordinated access system, recruiting and training new rehousing providers, and exploring new funding sources. Next slide. So again, our next steps include a workshop with the Board of Supervisors and City Council on July 25th, followed by the approval of the Affordable Housing Plan this fall. But this includes and of course, going back to all of you one more time at that plan for sure. This concludes my presentation, and we really would like your thoughts and questions you have on the plan.
Okay, before we go, I believe the process asks if there are any public comments.
Yes, we do have one on Zoom. Rick Eaton. Just one moment. Ready? Okay, Rick, if you want to unmute, you can go ahead and start. You have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there's a bit of an echo on my end. Christine, want to thank you for reading our note and significantly shortcutting my comments. You and your comments addressed our concern, which was, I guess, some confusion about just what state this evolution of the plan was. So I'm going to skip with the main comments I was going to make. What I would like to do is just, for the sake of the commission, I'm here representing Sacramento area congregations together. I'm not sure that we've actually addressed this body before. So in case you're not aware, Sacramento Act is a network of over 40 faith communities, so synagogues, churches, and mosques, who come together on efforts to improve quality of life for all residents. And one of our areas of focus, among several, is housing and homelessness. And so we've been working in this area for, close to 10 years, are very encouraged with the progress of the LHAP and the county partnership and this emerging plan, because one of the points that we've been hitting on consistently is the need for cross-jurisdictional coordination to address homelessness and housing, which is one of the root causes of homelessness, and also the need for a comprehensive plan. So I think, we're in agreement that we're evolving in that direction, which is really heartening. I would just have a couple of questions maybe that Christine, you could respond to. In your clarification, you've said this is, just a preliminary set of ideas that will be worked through a series of workshops into a robust plan, which is great news. Do you have any information about a schedule for, public comment and input on a more fully baked plan? After the workshop period and you've gathered more input, typically there's in the process of creating a more finalized draft of the plan and then seeking input on that. And so do you have any information on when that would happen? So I'll ask all three of my questions at once, if that's okay. The second
30 seconds.
The second is, we're concerned that the LHAP 1-year goals has a timeline of some measurable goals by the end of this year. And it references the affordable housing plan as sort of the tracking mechanism for that. So do you have a comment about reporting on whether we're actually going to meet those measurable targets that are in that 1-year action plan for the LHAP? And then the third question is, well, it's really a comment. We think that this plan should encompass more than just permanent supportive housing and rehousing. Those are obviously very important, but they're not the whole puzzle. And our reading of the LHAP and the partnership agreement really doesn't limit the scope of this to permanent supportive, but should encompass all forms of affordable housing. So thank you for, if you're able to respond to those, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to respond?
Please do.
Okay. So the schedule is that originally there was a very short timeline in the partnership agreement to actually draft this affordable housing plan. So we are moving as quickly as possible to meet that timeline. And so again, we hope to conclude our workshops next month. We would like to see a draft plan out for folks to review. It would be great if it was August. I hope it is. It might be September. We certainly will be having that plan attached to whatever report we go back to city and county with the Board of Supervisors and City Council. So there will be absolutely, the draft will be available. It will be available for public comment before it's approved by the governing body. So we will have it available. I just can't tell you now if it's August or September, but it's that time frame. A lot of it depends on what feedback we're getting at these workshops, right? I think the second one was the LHAP reporting time period. The affordable housing plan will coincide with the different LHAP time periods. We have, things that will be done during, the 2023 calendar year, 2024 calendar year. So our plan will coincide with the LHAP. So there will be some things this year that were in that. And then lastly, the LHAP, it has 6 strategies, the local housing action plan, and they have a wide variety of things to help with homelessness. And we are really just focusing on one of those strategies per the partnership agreement, and told us really we need to focus on the production of permanent supportive housing. in this plan. But of course, we think rehousing is part of that spectrum of housing, right? You have to get people in to have the permanent supportive housing. So while we totally agree that there are many, many pieces of the puzzle, some of those will be in the LHAP, some of them will be affordable housing plan. And certainly SHRA focuses on all levels of affordable housing, right? We bring projects we brought to you tonight, most of them were just affordable housing. So absolutely that will be a focus. I'm not sure how much we'll spend in this plan, but it's absolutely a focus of what we do here at SHRA. And we take, but it's good to have that input that you'd like to see more affordable housing in the plan, not just permanent supportive housing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for responding to that question, to those questions. And now I would like to open the discussion to commissioners to provide direction regarding the affordable housing plan. Recognizing Commissioner Morgan.
Does the input close?
Well, so we would love all the input from most of the community groups by the end of this month. The reason is we'd like to include that in our presentations to the City Council and Board of Supervisors at the end of July. And it takes us a while to get those reports and PowerPoints before the City Council and Board of Supervisors date. But however, the meetings at the City Council and Board of Supervisors on July 25th will also be opportunities to provide input. So I guess, I'm not sure, but for sure through July. And we'd love it if you have something now, though, to have it as sooner rather than later.
Okay, somebody had said something, and I'll get back to them and let them know that's the close date.
Yeah, I mean, the board and council meetings are also very, open. We want to gather ideas at those meetings.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Commissioner Ross.
Commissioner Dunn.
I was tracking.
Oh, okay.
No, you can go.
All right, thank you. So first thing I want to just state is just, the great work of SHRA. There's a lot of great, I like affordable housing and homes for seniors and kids and tutoring programs that makes a difference. So I'm going to start there. But the second thing I wanted to commend is just the work with Sacramento area congregations together. I know that work. I know I personally have been for 20 years working with faith communities and so forth, working with homelessness and those particular concerns and trying to find the right mix. So my comments are going to follow that. So I commend SAC for the work that they're doing. I meet with Pastor Ephraim, who's your chair regularly, and we are working on some of those issues in general and trying to mobilize folks. Gabby, recently I was at a Carmichael base meeting, and I met Lucero and Daryl, working with some of the various faith communities to target these issues, in particular African-American communities. So again, commend the work. But one of the things I wanted to bring up when we're talking about other types of housing is some of the keys to helping solve homelessness. You all are playing a role, SHR is playing a role, it's for comment for us to make. There's two areas that I want to look at. One is the idea of drug and alcohol rehabilitation services. I think that's extremely important, as well as mental health services, of course. But when I am out and about talking with residents at these different facilities, and from my past experience, the idea, there's two things. One is to have rehabilitation services. I think that needs to be as robust as possible. I'd like to see that clearly identified and built into the plan, if it's not already, but it's just something paramount. And secondly, with that, when we're talking about permanent supportive housing in general on that subject, I think it's a great idea, but I run into people who are in recovery a lot. And those that are in recovery say it is just extremely difficult to be in a situation where they're living with people who want to continue to use drugs and alcohol. I would recommend that there would be units, maybe a wing or so in the housing that would be reserved for people who want to live drug and alcohol free. And so that they can be separate from that environment, or at least have a wing where people who are like-minded. I mean, I see we have you know, senior housing, we have housing, you know, dedicated with folks with Cal MSHA, Cal Mesa working that have mental health issues. I would like to see somehow, if it is possible, I don't know if it is, I always hear there's a pushback that, you know, we don't monitor drug use and so forth. Great, okay, but give people who don't want to use drugs and alcohol and are trying to get away from that lifestyle some space where they can move forward. Otherwise, I just really believe we're going to be bumping our heads up against a brick wall trying to open up or unclog some of the pipeline with respect to homelessness. We had to address this drug and alcohol issue as well as mental health. So I'd like to see if there's any responses to that, please. I think it's very important.
Would you like me to?
Whoever knows about that. Thank you.
I very much appreciate your thoughts on that. Most of SHRA's funding becomes from the federal government, and they do require us to do housing first, which means we have to, there's a requirement to house individuals regardless of their drug and alcohol status. And so we're not allowed to require drug or alcohol-free units, so that there is a fair housing concerns. You said you've heard of that before, but we can talk about that some more, and if there's any other possibilities.
So I know you can't.
Michelle would like to add something.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate your comments. I think they are reflective of a lot of things that we hear within the community. But a part of the Housing First is to meet people where they are. And it's not to just say, okay, you're housed, but a part of this robust resident services and wraparound is to really bring those types of treatment opportunities over and over and over again to the clients who live in permanent supportive housing, so that they have access to and can start to connect to, you know, appropriate treatment programs that are going to help them get past their levels of addiction. Christine is right. We can't, you know, discriminate and say, you know, you can't live in this wing and you have to live in that wing. But that is really the underpinnings of what Housing First is to meet you where you are and is to bring you those wraparound services.
Thank you for that. Executive Director. But my question would be not to thank you for that. My question would be not to mandate, but is there a way that people can voluntarily say, this is, you know, a clean and sober wing? I mean, we have...
Not with the type of federal funding that we have, because it is considered Housing First. And then you would also have to be in a situation to try to determine who falls into that category. You know, there are people who are just in regular housing, who's not affordable, who have same types of issues. So you can't really try and figure out if someone is falling into clean and sober, or maybe they have been for a while, but they've had a relapse and then they've got to start all over. So that's the whole thing about permanent supportive housing, is to really continually providing services so people can get.
Yeah, I know. I'm just seeing if there's some creative solutions, because there are a lot of constituents that request this, and I think it's something that's very much needed. People need, you know, there's other lifestyles, orientation groups, age groups. I think there needs to be, being drug and alcohol free is a lifestyle choice and an orientation that needs to be supported. If there's any other kind of creative types of things, I mean, I know it's not mandated, but I mean, when I ran some programs up in various other states, we didn't mandate, but we did encourage to say, this is, you know, a sober living wing. You know, we try to encourage that. Maybe even by encouragement, and to be able to say, not mandatory, but if you, because sometimes birds of a feather like to flock together. Those who want to use drugs like to hang around people who want to drink and drug. So if you can say, this group over here is choosing to hopefully live in a drug and alcohol-free environment, not that it's required, but we encourage that. If you want to feel more comfortable living with people who are users, then, you know, there's a large group over in this area. Is that possible? Why is that not possible?
Because that's just not the way that the funding works. The funding, as I mentioned, is to meet people where they are. And that would require someone to try and figure out who falls into what category when it's.
People actually self-regulate themselves. I had floors that they self-regulate. They do.
Right, but that's just not the way that the funding works. And the federal government, who has been in this business for quite some time, used to do that a long time ago.
They did.
There used to be programs that required, but they found that that really did not reach the population that we're trying to get to. And that's why
I won't say any more comments. I appreciate that, but I think there's a whole load of data that says otherwise. And I'll challenge the government on that subject.
Yeah.
But anyway, there we go.
All right, thank you. Recognizing Commissioner Nunley.
Thank you. The one thing that I did notice, and I appreciate the hard work of SHRA, especially when you're doing all of these public meetings and you're trying to gather all of this information, I can only imagine. Some of it, and one of the things that I noticed in the comments from SAC Act that they submitted, and they talked about analysis of alternative actions and that type of thing. And one of the things that I thought, sometimes you get so many plans or alternatives or this, is there a way for you as staff that you're not spinning your wheels and are able to kind of narrow things down, which I hope you can, narrow things down so that you're not trying to do significant analysis on programs that are unlikely or probably just won't work and that type of thing. And do you guys, what's the process, kind of, just a little bit, not in detail, of how you guys have to go through certain things?
No, I certainly appreciate that because there is some reality to that. First of all, this is a report, so we have to get out quickly, as I said, and then we have to report back to the council and board on an annual basis. The LHAP, which this is sprung from, and the partnership agreement. The partnership agreement is 5 years. We are working on it. It does the affordable housing plan 5 years, but that would be 5 years from the beginning of the year. So we're halfway through the first year. So we want to make sure that we have very good measurables for the city council and board of supervisors, and they're realistic. We should reach a little bit, obviously. We want to reach, but we want to make, when we report back annually, we want to report back that, yes, we've reached those goals. So that's sort of what we're looking at too with this plan. Can it be, because this is how the city and county work together and what they're going to accomplish together for produce affordable housing and rehousing. So we do want to make them realistic.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Chair recognizes Commissioner Ramos.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm curious about the implementation and accountability component of this plan once it's adopted, and what role SHRA may play in that. Because as I understand it, this is all based on voluntary agreements between the city and the county. And I think as most of the things that come here, it would require like action on both their sides to prove something. So I'm curious, like what teeth does this have to actually be implemented? If it is going to be specific enough to have like specific actions associated with it, and what role would we play? Would this come back to us? Will we see this again? I saw something in there about sort of measurables over some period of time, or to measure progress with reports in open session to City Council Board of Sups. But a report doesn't require anything. So do we play any role in that? We reviewed this affordable housing plan and we're going to tell the city or the county, hey, you're actually not meeting this objective that you set out. Or does it get filed away and 5 years comes to an end and then, you know, we move on. So what's is there any accountability built into it? Do we play any role in that? Will we see this?
Good question. I'll answer it, and Michelle would like to add something afterwards. So we do see, let me start with the plan itself. There are two halves right now of the plan. There's the production of affordable housing, and that's what we bring forward to you all the time, and every commission meeting. And then there's the rehousing. So SHRA certainly plays a very key role in the production of affordable housing for the city and county. That's what we were created to do. We are not a rehousing organization. Most of the rehousing activities take place through the County of Sacramento. Sacramento Steps Forward are partners in this. I think the reporting will be brought back annually once we have the measurable outcomes, and we'll report on those. And I see SHRA reporting out on the production, and we absolutely, this is very rare, extremely rare that we take anything to our governing bodies without coming to you first. So I can imagine that being coming to you before we go on to the City Council of Supervisors. The rehousing, and I, we'll have a partners report out, and it'll probably be part of the same report we come to you with. But as far as, I think that's why the council and board wanted pretty regular reports back to see if we're meeting these goals, and if they're not, they can adjust in real time to change things to meet the goals. So if there's a number, so many units per year, and we are 100 short of those units per year, for example, what needs to be done to change that? So, that will be part of what happens every year when we do the reporting, what that can be done to meet that goals. And you can see some of the things we talked about are looking for new funding sources. We're going to look and we're going to try our best, and I know a lot of our electeds here in the city and county are also interested in that. Hopefully we'll realize some new funding sources. We may not, but at least we'll be reporting back to the city and county and you all what we've done to try to further that goal of finding new funding sources. But I'm going to see if Lachelle wants to add.
Yeah, Christine, I think those are excellent points, and even in previous plans, especially once we get to a point where we can see kind of very specific, measurable, targeted goals, then you will see that we'll be reporting on that. Each staff report that we bring forward really does outline what objectives that we are meeting. So in that one section of the staff report, it's going to now start saying this fulfills our requirements or helps further our progress on the affordable housing plan. So you'll start to see that as we bring forward projects. And we really are we as staff are very interested to see that there are very specific and measurable targets that they want us to meet in terms of production of housing, because it gives you a good target and a good measure to know if you're meeting it or not, or if you need more resources to do it. The harder ones, well, not harder, but the ones that are not quite as tangible, maybe, let's say, putting forward a bond initiative. But there are certain steps that have to go forward before you can get to a bond initiative, and we know exactly what those checkoff steps are. So those are the types of things that we foresee coming forward in the affordable housing plan, and the fact that there is accountability between both partners, between the city and the county, who are all in and who see this as an opportunity for collaboration to move the needle.
All right, thank you. Recognize Chair Morgan. Commissioner Morgan.
Lost that. Why did I lose that? But so I just want to follow up a little bit on what Commissioner Ross was saying there, and maybe a little creative and out of the box thinking here. Knowing that the federal funds are controlled by Housing First, is there any room in the plan for non-federal funds where they could go off on a tangent to provide a custom boutique type of housing for homeless that would encompass a sobriety section into it?
I don't know, but that's a very good thought, and we will put it as one of the input ideas. Thank you. A legal question, but we'll look into it.
Thanks.
Thank you. And now recognizing Commissioner Stajabu.
All right, what's the submission process for people who have ideas? Do we send emails to you? Or?
Absolutely. Vicki Smith, who's, I know you all know, is sitting in the back. She's been helping with me, helping with this, and you can send ideas to either one of us, and we will take them, and we're appreciative of any ideas and thoughts you have.
All right. And then Commissioner Ross.
Yes, so I want to thank formerly Chair Morgan, now Commissioner Morgan, for that comment. there is wisdom. I'm starting to gain some gray hair, not as much as you, but I appreciate that creative thought. I would like to just piggyback on what he was saying and maybe a response for the next meeting, that, you know, if there is any non-federally funded funds, that it could be used creatively to support such an initiative. There's a high demand. I've been out at cottage housing, I've been out at other places from all my work, high demand. Yeah, I've already said what my concerns are. Some people just won't even get out of the bed and get to work, when there's an ability to get to work, because there's just no incentive to do so. We've been offering programs at different places, and some of the staff are just absolutely discouraged. They said, people don't want to do anything. We need them to be able to have those who want to move forward have an opportunity to do that and not be blocked by drug use and alcohol use.
So I guess the only thing I want to add is if we take a look at Beach Hill, that's the one that we just did, and you look at how we actually were able to arrive at the funding for that particular program, you'll see that, the tax equity, there's what, $10.6 million there. So the largest, I just want to manage expectations. The largest source of funding for affordable housing comes from the federal government. I would say 90-some-odd%
Yes.
of the money that we have. So if you're trying to put together a project, this one is only 29 units, it's about $15 million, then that's the order of magnitude of non-federal type of money. And this is also vouchers, no vouchers, that's federal too, that you would have to start to look at to try and build that out. So I'm just making sure that you understand, what it takes financially to put together affordable housing.
Thank you. Recognizing Commissioner Ramos.
Yeah, and thanks for that clarification on the funding. I would just, and I know folks are giving just individual input, but I just want to go on the record that even if we could find a way to get out of this requirement from the federal strings attached to money, I don't think it's something we should do, because as has been said, we need to meet people where they're at, and I would be very concerned about the fair housing implications of creating these distinctions. So I don't think as a commission we should pursue that. I respect that individual commissioners have a different perspective, but I think we should, I think the current approach is correct.
All right. Recognizing Commissioner Ramos.
Yes. Is there a way that a reserve could be put aside as we collect federal funds so that one day there could be a buildup of funding to construct such a housing option? Is that a possibility?
So Commissioner, I'll just try to field that first. We were just here, I think, last meeting, where we talked about how the funds that SHRA has. We did an annual report, and I just need that there are no federal funds at this point, non-federal funds that SHRA receives at this point for I don't think now it's coming line one, for homeless type projects. We do have housing trust funds we get from the city and the county, the affordable housing and mixed income housing ordinance, but those are for workforce housing. That doesn't mean, you might have a few people that are homeless, formerly homeless in those projects, but they're workforce. There is the state permanent local housing allocation, but from the state, but most of our funds, I kind of want to echo what Michelle's saying, we just don't receive funds that aren't federal for the most part for homeless housing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think it's safe to say that the parameters as far as what the funds is allocated for is pretty strict in regards to federal funding. I think, to my understanding and my experience, in order to develop or connect in regards to when it comes to rehabilitative services, in regards to detox or any of those things, the state typically has programs that are designated to provide these type of services. Maybe it would be important and helpful if we probably reach out to our local leaders to inform them that, there should be some type of a network in regards to these programs so that they can connect with SHRA and some of the things that we do. But I think there are strict parameters as far as what we can actually do, because it's also being implicated, it's also implicating DHCS, Department of Healthcare Services, and they have a huge impact in regards to some of these things, so.
I just want to make it clear that these types of services are provided to the residents.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what we're doing. The assessment, there's multidisciplinary teams, they're going to assess what each individual person needs. And if that is their issue, then that's where they're going to connect them. They're going to connect them to those types of services to help them move beyond their situation. But just dealing with homeless individuals and building a sense of trust so that they are willing to come in. I mean, there is a lot of work that goes into that, and you have to respect that trust and continue to work with them to get them past, their current situations. But, it's very hard for you to be clean and sober on the streets until you have a safe place to live. And that's really what Housing First is all about, is a safe place to live. Then we start working with you on whatever it is that you need.
Perfectly said. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the comments. And of course, there is no motion. So now I believe we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the director's report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christine. You're right. It's a lot of work in a very short, compressed period of time. But Christine, her staff, Vicki, have just really been doing an outstanding job and continue to do so. And there'll be more discussion. This won't be the last time. I'm sure Commissioner Ross will continue to talk about this.
We will.
I'm sure we will. No, and I understand fully. So our next meeting, we'll have a little break. Our next meeting is currently scheduled for August 16th. So August 16th, we will have our next commission meeting. But I wanted to give a reminder about a groundbreaking event, 39th and Broadway Senior Apartments. That groundbreaking celebration will be on Friday, July 28th at 10 a.m. And it's the new construction of 43 units, mixed studio and one-bedroom units for seniors. So their amenities will be a community room, management office, laundry facilities, a community garden, courtyard patio, all the things that our seniors will find very inviting. Another one that we've been working on for a very, very long time. So we're glad to see it finally getting kicked off. So if you could mark your calendars, and hopefully you could be in attendance with us at that.
What is the location?
39th and Broadway.
What's it called?
39th and Broadway. It's kind of hard to not know where it is.
Okay.
We're so greedy.
Hopefully staff will be able to send an invite for us so that we
Yes,
can mark it on our calendar. So,
We will definitely make sure you get that.
okay. That's it. Commissioner.
Just wanted to confirm, so the July and the first week of August commission meetings are canceled?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the time also too where there's a break at both the city council and the board of supervisors, there's summer break. So then when they come back, it takes a while for us
Back up. All right. And as far as Commission Chair report, I think my report would just be, I'd just like to recognize the celebration of Juneteenth that occurred this Monday. It's a day of recognition that I personally plan to ensure becomes a holiday that does not have to be optional for both state and major private sector organizations. So there were various events that were held over the weekend. So I encourage commissioners, if you didn't go there this year, definitely be sure to attend next year. There were a lot of great things. I learned a lot of new things in regards to, one example is with Black Seminoles tribal members of the El Nacimiento de los Negros in Mexico. And also former SHRA executive leader Tyrone Roderick provided a presentation regarding his lineage, which is really interesting at a Chambers event. So it's really good. Just want to celebrate that and recognize that. And that's my only report for the day. All right. And are there commission members? Do you have any announcements? Anything you want to share? Babies, wedding, anything new? Commissioner Ramos.
I just had a question or something to flag that I'd love to learn more about in terms of SHRA's role or perspective. I saw that some of our local assembly members are proposing a JPA on homelessness between the city and the county, and it just struck me as like SHRA is a JPA between the city and the county. So does SHRA have any role in that? Is SHRA concerned that this would be kind of coming into our area of work, or anyway, I know it was just announced, but when I saw it, I was like, this sounds like something that otherwise should be under SHRA. Curious if you have any thoughts or any input on that.
Yes, we did see that as well. I don't see that it would usurp the work that we do, because a lot of the work that we do is beyond just homelessness. It's affordable housing, it's home ownership, it's community development, it's running the housing authority. So there are a lot of other things that we as an agency are very much the front runner, and that's what we do. And I think it's just it's a provocative proposal, and we will continue to be a part of the conversation as it moves forward. But there is a lot to putting together a JPA, as we all know, since we've been around for quite some time. So we'll wait and see. So that's probably most I can say about it.
Okay.
Well, as it continues to develop, we'd definitely love to hear more about what SHRA's perspective is, or the role that we might have in that.
Absolutely.
All right.
So Commissioner Ramos's comment reminds me of a quote. I'm encouraged to see that there are those who wish to reinvent the wheel. It just concerns me about how many corners they wish to put on it.
Thank you for that statement. That's it's really eye-opening. Any other comments? Commissioners? Nothing? All right. If there are no other business.
Just Buffalo Soldiers, I watched that.
That's all. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Ross. And if there are no other business to discuss, with that, our meeting will now be adjourned.